Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. In just the past few days, America has bid farewell to some truly extraordinary individuals, legends whose influence has shaped our culture, inspired countless lives, and will continue to echo through generations. Today, we pay tribute to their remarkable journeys, celebrate their timeless achievements, and reflect on the legacies they've left behind. If their stories have ever touched your heart, I invite you to honor them by liking this video, a small gesture to help keep their memory alive. Now, let's begin this heartfelt remembrance. Jerry Adler, the veteran actor best remembered for his role as Hesh Rabkin on HBO's acclaimed drama The Sopranos, has died at the age of 98. Born February 4, 1930 in Brooklyn, New York, Adler built a career spanning more than 7 decades, moving between stage, film, and television with quiet consistency and authority. On The Sopranos, Adler appeared in more than 30 episodes from 1999 to 2007, portraying the shrewd music producer and longtime family advisor whose calm demeanor often masked deep influence. His ability to balance humor, warmth, and quiet menace made Hesh one of the most memorable supporting characters in the series, which regularly drew audiences of 10 million viewers at its peak. Before The Sopranos, Adler had already established himself as a respected Broadway stage manager and director, working on productions like My Fair Lady and Fiddler on the Roof. He transitioned to acting in his later career with credits that included The West Wing, Northern Exposure, Rescue Me, and films such as Manhattan Murder Mystery and The Public Eye. Colleagues often praised his professionalism and humility, noting that Adler never chased the spotlight, but always elevated the work around him. Even into his 90s, he continued taking roles, showing the stamina and dedication that defined his career. Jerry Adler's passing marks the loss of an actor whose presence was never loud, but always lasting. He proved that consistency and depth can be as memorable as star power, leaving behind a body of work that will be revisited for years to come. For those who cherished his roles from Broadway to HBO, leave a comment with your favorite Jerry Adler moment, or simply write R.I.P. Jerry Adler to honor his life, his craft, and his quiet but enduring impact. Diego Bella, the dedicated assistant director who spent decades ensuring film sets ran seamlessly, has died on August 21, 2025 at the age of 58. Though his name was rarely in lights, Bella's influence was felt in every production he touched. Known for his calm under pressure and ability to coordinate complex shoots, he became the quiet backbone behind many acclaimed projects. Cast and crew alike recalled his steady hand during high-stakes moments. Whether guiding extras through a crowded courtroom scene or keeping cameras and lights in sync during late-night shoots, these behind-the-scenes efforts often became fan-favorite memories among colleagues who knew the magic on screen was possible because Diego kept it together off-screen. Born in Rome on October 12, 1966, he studied film before moving to the U.S., where he began with small independent projects. His skill and reliability soon led him to larger productions where directors trusted his eye for detail and crews admired his professionalism. For Bella, filmmaking was never about fame, but about storytelling. His legacy lives in the flow of countless scenes he quietly helped bring to life, moments where audiences felt the story without ever knowing the hand guiding it. To those who worked with him, he was more than an assistant director. He was the soul of the set. Jeannie Seely, the esteemed country music singer, songwriter, record producer, and author, has passed away at the age of 79. Born July 6, 1945 in Titusville, Florida, Seely's career spanned over 6 decades and left an indelible mark on the genre. Seely rose to prominence in 1965 with her Grammy-winning hit, Don't Touch Me, which reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. Over her career, she released more than 20 studio albums, earned multiple charted singles, and became known for her emotive vocals, expressive stage presence, and flair for storytelling. Beyond her recordings, Seely broke ground as one of the first female producers in country music, founding Seely Records in the early 1970s and helping shape the sound of other artists. Her skill extended further. She authored a memoir, Honey, I Dare You, released in 2003, chronicling her journey through a male-dominated industry and offering insights into her resilience and creative spirit. She was also a songwriter. Her compositions were recorded by legends like Dolly Parton and Connie Smith. Her city of Los Angeles eventually honored her achievements with induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2020, cementing her legacy. She hosted and produced radio and television country music segments and continuously championed emerging artists, using her platform to uplift others. Even in her later years, Seely remained active, performing at festivals, mentoring younger performers, and offering leading workshops on songwriting and vocal technique. In remembrance of Jeannie Seely, the Grammy-winning voice of Don't Touch Me, a trailblazer for women in country music and a mentor whose songs and spirit touched countless lives. Leave a comment with the number 79, her age, or simply write a rip Jeannie Seely to honor her music, her courage, and the legacy she leaves on every stage she graced. Loni Anderson built one of TV's most recognizable comedic personas without ever playing it simple. Born August 5, 1945 in St. Paul, Minnesota, she became a household name as Jennifer Marlowe on CBS's WKRP in Cincinnati, 1978 to 1982. Across 4 seasons and 90 episodes, Anderson's cool, capable receptionist rewrote the dumb blonde stereotype with timing, wit, and control. The performance earned her 3 Golden Globe nominations and 2 Primetime Emmy nominations and helped WRP become a perpetual and cynic favorite. Beyond WKRP, Anderson kept a steady mix of comedy and drama. She starred opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Jane Mansfield Story, 1980, led the short-lived NBC sitcom Easy Street, 1986 to 1987, and teamed with Linda Carter and Partners in Crime, 1984. Film work included Stroker Ace, 1983, while later guest turns ranged from Sabrina the Teenage Witch to Melrose Place, proving she could step into new eras without trading away the poise fans expected. Her public life, especially her 1988 to 1994 marriage to Burt Reynolds, often drew headlines, but Anderson kept the center of gravity on the work. She published a candid memoir in 1995, mentored young performers, and remained a regular presence at classic TV festivals and charity events. Measured by numbers or endurance, the resume is durable. 6 decades on screens, dozens of series credits, and one indelible creation who still makes new audiences laugh on streamers and late-night reruns. She reunited with WKRP castmates for specials and fan events to celebrate Loni Anderson's trailblazing run. Smart comedy, precise craft, and a character who raised the bar. Share your favorite WKRP moment. Name the episode that won you over, or post the number 79 to mark her age. Your note, short or long, is a thank you to an artist who proved that elegance and brains could carry a punchline and a career. Brent Hinds, best known as the guitarist, vocalist, and co-founding member of the metal band Mastodon, has died on August 20th, 2025 at the age of 53. Since forming Mastodon in 2000, Hinds appeared on all 9 studio albums, contributing to the band's evolution into one of the most influential acts in progressive metal. Born January 8, 1974 in Helena, Montana, Hinds co-founded Mastodon alongside Troy Sanders, Bill Keller, and Bran Daler. Their debut album, Remission, 2002, introduced a fierce new voice in heavy music with Brent co-writing songs like March of the Fire Ants. Mastodon's major breakthrough came with Leviathan 2004, a concept album loosely inspired by Moby Dick, which reached the Billboard 200 and earned widespread critical acclaim. Over the years, Mastodon released 8 more studio albums. Blood Mountain 2006, Crack the Sky 2009, The Hunter 2011, Once More, Round the Sun 2014, Emperor of Sand 2017, Hushed and Grim 2021, all charting nationally and earning Grammy nominations. Hinds' guitar work and vocal contributions were central to songs like Thier, Curl of the Burl, Show Yourself, and The Crux. Brent appeared on thousands of stages across continents, delivering tight performances that combined technical mastery with raw energy. The band won the Best Metal Performance Grammy in 2018 for Sultan's Curse, solidifying their place in heavy music history. Even after Mastodon's intense touring cycle slowed, fans continued to celebrate his contributions, his peculiar licks, mystical lyrics, and the way he melded aggression with beauty. His legacy endures through every riff that still echoes in festival fields and through the genre's evolving sound. To honor Brent Hinds, whose playing pushed metal forward and whose presence lifted every band he joined, leave a comment with the number 53, his age, or write Brent Hinds to celebrate a musician who made every chord count. Gabi Novak, one of the most celebrated voices of Croatian and Yugoslav popular music, has passed away at the age of 87. Born on July 8, 1936 in Berlin to a Croatian father and a German mother, Novak moved to Yugoslavia as a child and grew up in Zagreb, where she began her lifelong career in music. Her professional journey started in the 1950s when she sang with Radio Zagreb's orchestra. By 1958, she recorded her first single and quickly became recognized as one of the first true jazz and pop singers in Yugoslavia. Over the span of her career, Novak released more than 15 albums and compilations with her records selling hundreds of thousands of copies across Yugoslavia and later Croatia. In the 1960s and 1970s, Novak's popularity soared as she won numerous music festival awards, including the Apesha Festival and Split Festival, which were central stages of the era. Her 1966 hit PVA Thitjo Titjo remains one of the most enduring songs of the period. She appeared in over 200 television and radio broadcasts, becoming not only a music star, but also a household name in the region. Novak's artistry bridged jazz, chant, and pop, and she was frequently compared to Edith Piaf and Ella Fitzgerald for her vocal control and emotional depth. Beyond her solo career, she collaborated with some of the leading composers and musicians of her generation, cementing her role as a pioneer of sophisticated pop music in the Balkans. Even into her later years, Novak's influence remained strong. She received Lifetime Achievement Awards from Croatian music associations and was honored for more than 6 decades of contribution to the arts. Younger generations rediscovered her work through reissues and tributes, proving her music's timeless quality. With a career that spanned more than 60 years, over 15 official albums, countless festival performances, and millions of television viewers reached, Gabi Novak leaves behind an unmatched legacy in the history of Southeast European music. Her voice defined an era and continues to resonate with listeners who found in her songs a rare combination of elegance, intimacy, and artistry. David Ketchum, American actor, comedian, and writer best remembered for his role as Agent 13 on NBC's hit comedy Get Smart, has died at the age of 95. Born February 4, 1928 in New York City, Ketchum developed a long and varied career that stretched across stand-up, television, film, and screenwriting for more than 40 years. From 1965 until the series ended in 1970, Ketchum appeared in more than 30 episodes of Get Smart. His character, Agent 13, became a fan favorite, known for being stationed in odd hiding places such as mailboxes, file cabinets, and trash cans. With only brief screen time, his sharp timing and deadpan delivery made the running gag one of the show's funniest and most remembered features. Outside of Get Smart, Ketchum built an extensive list of guest roles. He appeared in more than 40 television programs, among them Bewitched, The Monsters, Hogan's Heroes, Green Acres, and The Doris Day Show. During the 1960s and 1970s, he recorded over 60 appearances on network series, demonstrating a versatility that kept him in steady demand. Ketchum also worked as a comedy writer. He scripted episodes for The Monkees, The Flying Nun, and Love, American Style, totaling more than 20 credited scripts. His behind-the-scenes contributions helped shape some of the most popular light entertainment of the era. On film, he appeared in comedies including The Busy Body, 1967, and in Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, 1974, where his small role added to his reputation as a reliable supporting player. Ketchum began as a stand-up comic in the 1950s, performing in New York clubs before transitioning into acting. That early training gave him the quick wit and timing that became his trademark on screen. By his retirement in the 1990s, David Ketchum had accumulated more than 100 credited television and film appearances, along with dozens of writing credits. Though best known as Agent 13, his broader career showed a rare combination of performance and creative talent. His humor and contributions remained part of the fabric of mid-century American television comedy. Eddie Palmieri, the legendary American pianist, bandleader, and composer who helped shape the sound of Latin jazz and salsa, has died at the age of 88. Born December 15, 1936 in New York City, to Puerto Rican parents, Palmieri began playing piano at 8 and launched a professional career that lasted more than 60 years. In 1961, he formed his first band, La Perfecta, which became famous for its bold, brass-heavy sound. The group's style, mixing Cuban rhythms with jazz influences, quickly set Palmieri apart. Over his career, he released more than 35 albums, earning wide respect for innovation and creativity. His records sold in the millions across the Americas and Europe. Palmieri was honored with 10 Grammy Awards between 1975 and 2007, including the very first Grammy ever awarded in the Latin music category for the Son of Latin Music in 1975. He would go on to collect Grammys for albums such as Unfinished Masterpiece, 1976, Palopa Rumba, 1984, and Listen Here, 2007. He received over 20 Grammy nominations in total, making him one of the most decorated artists in Latin music history. Beyond awards, Palmieri's impact was measured in influence. He performed in more than 50 countries from Carnegie Hall to international jazz festivals, bringing Afro-Caribbean music to global audiences. His collaborations included work with Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, and Ismael Quintana, blending talent and styles that defined salsa's golden era. Palmieri was also recognized with the National Endowment for the Arts JAZZM Award in 2013, the highest honor in American jazz. His compositions were studied at music schools, and his recordings became reference points for generations of musicians. Even late into his career, Palmieri continued touring and recording. His 2018 release, Full Circle, revisited classic hits with modern arrangements, showing his ability to stay relevant across decades. He played well into his 80s, maintaining a schedule that included dozens of concerts each year. By the time of his passing, Eddie Palmieri had built a legacy that combined virtuoso piano skill, visionary band leading, and cultural pride. With more than 35 albums, 10 Grammy wins, and countless performances worldwide, he leaves behind music that defined an era and continues to inspire audiences and musicians around the world. Ronnie Rondell Jr., the veteran stuntman and actor who built one of the most extensive stunt resumes in Hollywood, has died at the age of 86. Born in Los Angeles in 1938, he grew up in the shadow of the film industry and entered the business in the late 1950s. Over the next 4 decades, he worked in more than 70 feature films and appeared in hundreds of television episodes, becoming a trusted name behind the scenes of action entertainment. Rondell's specialty was performing and coordinating stunts that demanded precision and absolute fearlessness. He doubled for leading actors in car chases, fist fights, and fire gags, often taking the physical risks that gave action sequences their authenticity. His career included work on more than 200 television episodes across the most popular shows of their time. He appeared in Star Trek, The $6 Million Man, Charlie's Angels, and Mission Impossible, providing the realism that made audiences believe what they saw on screen. Rondell performed in The Towering Inferno, 1974, where he executed one of the film's most dangerous fire stunts, a moment that became a highlight of the production and helped drive its worldwide box office success of more than $100 million. He also contributed to the broad comedies Airplane, 1980, and The Naked Gun, 1988, and action hits such as Beverly Hills Cop, 1984, and Lethal Weapon 3, 1992. In total, he worked on more than 50 feature films covering genres from disaster epics to slapstick. Beyond his stunt work, Rondell built a second career as a character actor. He often accepted small speaking roles in the same productions where he performed stunts, giving him more than 40 credited acting appearances. Viewers spotted him in Columbo, Police Story, and Chips, where he added to the realism of the scenes he helped design. His work did not go unnoticed in the stunt community. Rendell became a mentor to younger stunt performers, teaching the techniques and safety measures that allowed the profession to thrive. By his retirement in the 1990s, he had accumulated over 400 total credits, combining acting and stunts, a number few performers in his field have ever reached. Ronnie Rondell Jr.'s career represents the dedication of those who risk themselves to create cinematic excitement. His stunts became part of television's most iconic moments and Hollywood's most successful blockbusters. He leaves behind a legacy of professionalism, bravery, and artistry that continues to define what audiences expect from action on screen. Connie Francis, one of the most successful female singers of the 20th century and crossover star of pop, rock and roll, country, and jazz, has died at the age of 86. Born Canetter Rosa Maria Frananiro on December 12, 1937 in Newark, New Jersey. She became a household name in the late 1950s and dominated the charts through the 1960s. Her breakthrough arrived in 1958 with Who's Sorry Now, which sold more than 1 million copies and reached number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100. The hit led to her first appearance on American Bandstand and national stardom. Across her career, Francis recorded over 600 songs in a dozen languages, building audiences in US, Europe, and Asia. Between 1958 and 1964, she placed 35 singles on the Hot 100, including Where the Boys Are, Stupid Cupid, and Lipstick on Your Collar. In 1960, Everybody's Somebody's Fool hit number 1, won the first chart topper by a woman for the newly launched MGM Records. Her LPs sold in the tens of millions, and industry lists ranked her among the top-earning women of the early 1960s. Her reach extended to film and international markets. She toured in more than 30 countries and recorded German, Italian, and Spanish versions of key songs. On screen, she starred in Where the Boys Are, 1960, a U.S. box office success that grossed about $3 million and tied her name to a major teen romance. Francis also proved versatile. She cut country titles like Among My Souvenirs, interpreted vocal jazz standards such as My Happiness, and released folk-themed albums for global audiences. By the 1970s, cumulative sales surpassed 100 million worldwide, placing her among the best-selling female vocalists of all time. Her catalog continues to be reissued and streamed by new listeners. Later years brought personal challenges, but they did not erase her achievements. She received multiple Lifetime Achievement honors, and her recordings remain staples of oldies radio and film soundtracks. In total, she logged more than 80 U.S. chart entries, over 600 studio recordings, and global sales topping 100 million. Her voice bridged the innocence of 1950s pop and the broader reach of international music that followed, and generations continue to discover her work. As we honor Connie Francis and the music she shared across 86 remarkable years, share your favorite song in the comments. Whether Where the Boys Are, Stupid Cupid, or another classic, and leave a heart to celebrate an enduring voice that touched millions. Today, Bruce Willis's story begins far from the bright lights of Hollywood in the quiet military town of Edar Oberstein, West Germany, where he was born on March 19, 1955. His father, David Willis, was an American soldier stationed abroad, a man defined by grit and hard work, who later returned to civilian life as a welder, mechanic, and factory worker. His mother, Marlene, was German, a steady presence who provided for the family through her job at a local bank. Together, they formed a modest household carrying both the discipline of military life and the resilience of working-class sacrifice. When Bruce was just 2 years old, the Willis family left Europe behind and resettled in Carneys Point, New Jersey, a blue-collar town of smokestacks, modest homes, and factory shifts. Here, Bruce grew up as the eldest of 4 children, a role that carried both responsibility and a natural urge to protect. The rhythms of his childhood were shaped by his father's callous hands after a day's work, and his mother's quiet determination to keep the household steady. Though their means were limited, the family bond was tight, instilling in Bruce the grounded, non-nonsense values that would later define his screen presence. But behind his boyish grin, young Bruce carried a hidden battle. From his earliest school years, he struggled with a severe stutter, words catching in his throat, thoughts stumbling as they tried to emerge. The impediment was so profound that it threatened to silence him, making classroom participation agonizing and social interactions a daily trial. Yet in this vulnerability lay the seed of his transformation. For when Bruce discovered performance, standing on stage in a high school play, something extraordinary happened. The stutter vanished. In the presence of an audience, lines flowed freely. His voice carried strong, and for the first time he felt the liberating power of expression. That revelation changed everything. Acting was no longer a pastime. It became a lifeline, a bridge between his inner world and the outer one that had often seemed closed to him. His early years, marked by the hum of factory towns and the weight of his speech struggles, gave him resilience, empathy, and a deep well of determination. These qualities forged in modest beginnings would later resurface in the rugged vulnerability of John Emlan and countless other roles that demanded more than muscles or charm. They required the heart of a man who had learned early to fight for his voice. As Bruce entered his teenage years in Pensgrove, New Jersey, the boy, once silenced by a stutter, began to find his voice in the unlikeliest of places, the high school stage. Within the walls of the drama club, he discovered a sanctuary where words, so often trapped in hesitation, flowed effortlessly. Performing gave him not only fluency but confidence, a reminder that identity could be reshaped through courage. His classmates noticed immediately. On stage, he carried charisma, timing, and a presence that drew the eye. Yet offstage, Bruce remained reserved, still shy in ordinary conversations, as if the power only revealed itself under the glare of stage lights. Graduating in 1973, Bruce faced the same uncertainty that haunts many small-town kids. College was not the immediate path. Responsibility demanded work. He took on jobs that tested his endurance more than his dreams. Security guard, factory worker, even a stint as a private investigator. The work was demanding, often dangerous, and rarely glamorous. But each role added something vital, an instinct for human behavior, an eye for detail, and a physical toughness that would later translate seamlessly into the rugged authenticity of his acting. He learned the discipline of long hours on factory floors, the vigilance of nights spent guarding warehouses, the unpredictability of chasing leads as a detective. These were not lines from a script. They were lived experiences etched into him. Long before Hollywood came calling, Bruce understood the grit and weariness of working men, the burden of labor carried home on aching shoulders. It was this authenticity, the sense of a man who had truly known sweat, fatigue, and the sting of rejection that later set him apart from other actors. When audiences saw him as John Emlan crawling barefoot across broken glass, they believed him, not because of training or special effects, but because Bruce Willis had already lived a life where toughness and humor were survival tools. His teenage years were not glamorous, but they gave him the raw material of resilience, the humility of labor, the strength of persistence, and the quiet conviction that even ordinary men could rise to extraordinary circumstances. By 1977, Bruce Willis made the leap that would define his destiny. He left the safety of small-town New Jersey and moved to New York City, carrying little more than determination and a hunger to act. It was not a glamorous arrival. The city's streets were unforgiving, its skyline both a beacon and a dare. Yet within the chaos of Manhattan, Bruce found both struggle and possibility, and it was here that the foundations of his career would be built. He first enrolled at Montclair State University, studying drama, immersing himself in Shakespeare and stagecraft. But academia could not contain his restless spirit. After a short time, Bruce dropped out, deciding that the only way to truly learn acting was to live it, to chase auditions, to endure rejection, and to sharpen his instincts in the fire of competition. To survive, he worked nights as a bartender in Manhattan's bustling clubs. Behind the counter, Bruce discovered something invaluable, the art of connection. Serving drinks to artists, writers, and night dwellers, he perfected timing, charm, and wit. Each encounter was a small performance, a rehearsal for the screen. His magnetic presence and quick humor turned regulars into friends and friends into allies. More importantly, bartending taught him to listen, to read a room, to improvise. All skills that would later make his acting both believable and electric. Days were filled with auditions, most ending in disappointment. He was turned away countless times, told he wasn't right, wasn't polished, wasn't the look they wanted. Yet Bruce refused to break. Each no fueled his resolve. Each failure became a lesson in persistence. He took whatever roles he could find. Small theater productions, student films, commercials. The pay was meager, but the experience was priceless. What separated Bruce from so many others clawing their way through the New York acting scene was not just talent, but resilience. He had carried the grit of his working-class upbringing into a city that often demanded more than it gave. Rejections became the rhythm of his early career, but his stubborn will kept him moving forward. Beneath the struggle, there was always a spark. The conviction that one breakthrough could change everything, and in time it would. Bruce Willis's long march through auditions, odd jobs, and late-night bartending finally converged in 1985 when he landed the role of David Addison Jr. in the ABC series Moonlighting. It was the moment that transformed him from a struggling actor with grit into one of television's most magnetic new stars. As David Addison, a wisecracking private detective opposite Sybil's Shepherd's sharp and elegant Mattie Hayes, Bruce brought something television had rarely seen before. An effortless fusion of charm, wit, and unpredictability. His comedic timing was razor-sharp, his smirking irreverence contagious, and his ability to toggle between humor and vulnerability made audiences believe that beneath the jokes was a man worth rooting for. Moonlighting was more than just a detective show. It became a cultural event, blending screwball comedy with romantic tension, breaking the fourth wall and redefining what television storytelling could be. For Bruce, it was a revelation. The same qualities that once made him a charismatic bartender now made him a household name. Critics marveled at his natural screen presence, noting that he seemed less like an actor playing a role and more like someone who had simply wandered onto the set and stolen every scene. His blue-collar toughness mixed with boyish mischief created a new kind of leading man for television. Relatable, funny, flawed, and irresistibly human. The recognition followed swiftly. Bruce won a Golden Globe and an Emmy Award, cementing his place among television's elite. Audiences tuned in not just for the mysteries of the week, but to watch David and Mattie's verbal sparring, their unspoken longing, and Bruce's ability to make even silence feel alive with tension. By the end of its run in 1989, Moonlighting had given Bruce Willis something invaluable, a platform that catapulted him beyond television and into the world of film. He was no longer the kid from New Jersey chasing auditions. He was a star in his own right, armed with the charisma and confidence to take on Hollywood. Moonlighting was the door that opened everything else. In 1988, Bruce Willis made the leap from television star to silver screen legend with a role that nearly wasn't his. Before his name was even considered, Hollywood had passed the script for Die Hard across the desks of titans like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Burt Reynolds. Each declined. When the chance finally came to Bruce, known mostly for wise cracks on Moonlighting, critics and executives alike doubted whether a TV comedian could carry a summer blockbuster. But fate has a way of favoring the unexpected. As John Emlan, a New York cop trapped in a Los Angeles skyscraper besieged by terrorists, Bruce embodied something action cinema desperately needed: vulnerability. Unlike the muscle-bound, invincible warriors of the 80s, Emlan bled. He limped. He panicked. He argued with himself in stairwells, muttered curses under his breath, and felt crushing loneliness even as he hurled himself into danger. In his sweat-stained undershirt, barefoot and bruised, he was no superhero. He was us. Ordinary, imperfect, reluctant, but unwilling to quit. Die Hard premiered in July 1988 to moderate expectations. What followed was nothing short of a revolution. The film grossed over $140 million worldwide, turning Bruce Willis into a global icon overnight. His baritone one-liners became scripture for action fans, especially the irreverent taunt. yippee-ki that leapt from the script into the bloodstream of popular culture. Emlan wasn't just a character. He was a blueprint for a new kind of hero. The everyman who could stumble, bleed, and still prevail. Critics who had once dismissed Bruce as a sitcom actor were forced to reconsider. He carried the movie with equal parts humor, grit, and emotional honesty, balancing explosive set pieces with quiet moments of doubt and fear. Die Hard set a new standard for the genre, blending relentless tension with relatable humanity. The towering glass of Nakatomi Plaza became as much a character as Emlan himself, and Bruce's performance redefined how audiences measured courage, not in muscle but in perseverance. The film's success spawned not just sequels, but a cultural legacy. Over the following decades, the Die Hard franchise extended through 5 films, each revisiting the reluctant cop who became the wrong man in the wrong place at the wrong time. Though larger budgets and global stakes followed, the heart of the saga never strayed from that first explosive night. A flawed man fighting not for glory, but for the people he loved. For Bruce Willis, Die Hard was not simply a breakout. It was a coronation. It transformed him from a television talent into a bankable leading man, securing his place among Hollywood's defining stars. More importantly, it gave audiences a hero they could finally see themselves in. And in doing so, it etched his name into the annals of cinematic history, where one line, one barefoot dash across broken glass would forever echo. Yippee-ki. If Die Hard crowned Bruce Willis as an action star, the 1990s revealed the deeper layers of his artistry. Rather than resting on the laurels of John Emlan, Bruce took risks, sometimes playful, sometimes profound, that stretched his image far beyond broken glass and machine guns. He opened the decade with a softer touch in Look Who's Talking, 1989, lending his voice to the inner thoughts of a baby. What could have been a throwaway gig became a surprise success thanks to his comic timing and wry delivery that made audiences laugh as much as Coop. It showed early on that Bruce wasn't afraid to poke fun at himself, a quality that would follow him throughout his career. Soon after came The Last Boy Scout, 1991, where he teamed with Damon Wayans in a gritty buddy thriller dripping with noir cynicism, and Death Becomes Her, 1992. A sharp, satirical fantasy in which Bruce played against type as a bumbling, insecure plastic surgeon caught between 2 immortal women. Each role chipped away at the notion of Willis as one-dimensional, proving he could live in comedy, action, or satire with equal ease. But the true artistic turning point came in 1994 when Quentin Tarantino cast him as Butch Coolidge in Pulp Fiction. Gone was the wisecracking cop. In his play stood an aging boxer haunted by loyalty, violence, and redemption. The performance was restrained, raw, and human, reminding audiences that beneath the blockbuster persona was a serious actor capable of carrying weighty silence as powerfully as any punchline. For a new generation of moviegoers, Pulp Fiction wasn't just another film. It was a cultural earthquake, and Bruce Willis was right in the epicenter. The momentum carried into 1995 12 Monkeys, where he played James Cole, a weary time traveler burdened with saving humanity from a pandemic. The role demanded vulnerability and emotional depth, stripping away the swagger and exposing the man beneath. Critics hailed his performance as one of his finest, a haunting portrayal of fragility under impossible pressure. Of course, the decade also offered spectacle, and Bruce embraced it fully. In Luc Besson's The Fifth Element, 1997, he slipped into the futuristic world of flying taxis, neon cities, and operatic chaos, anchoring the extravagance with his trademark dry wit. A year later came Armageddon, 1998, where Bruce played Harry Stamper, the rough-neck oil driller tasked with saving Earth from an asteroid. The film was loud, unapologetically sentimental, and a box-office juggernaut. Yet at its heart was Bruce delivering one of the most emotional sacrifices in blockbuster history. A father saying goodbye to his daughter before saving the world. And then came the role that reminded everyone why he belonged among cinema's greats. 1999's The Sixth Sense, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, cast Willis as Dr. Malcolm Crowe, a child psychologist helping a boy who claimed to see the dead. His performance was subtle, layered, and quietly devastating. carrying the film's aching themes of loss and unfinished business. The movie became a global phenomenon, grossing over $672 million worldwide and earning 6 Academy Award nominations. When the twist ending shocked audiences, it was Bruce's calm, soulful presence that gave the revelation its emotional punch. By the time the 1990s closed, Bruce Willis was no longer just the action star of Die Hard. He was a chameleon, a voice of comedy, a vessel for satire, a tragic anti-hero, a savior of worlds, and a grieving doctor whose quiet compassion left millions in tears. The decade proved that his legacy would not be confined to a single genre, but defined instead by range, risk, and resonance. The new millennium didn't blunt Bruce Willis's edge. It sharpened his instincts. He opened the 2000s by turning away from bombast toward quiet power in Unbreakable. 2000. As David Dunn, he traded quips for stillness, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes searching for a performance that whispered rather than shouted. In Shyamalan's grounded take on heroism, Bruce made vulnerability feel mythic, proving that moral weight can be as riveting as gunfire. He never abandoned the skyscraper grit that made him famous. John Emlan roared back in Live Free or Die Hard 2007 and A Good Day to Die Hard 2013. Older, bruised, and stubbornly human, an analog soul in a digital crisis. Age didn't soften Emlan, it gave him context. The wisecracks carried history now, and fatherhood threaded through the mayhem, turning blows and broken glass into a reluctant lesson plan on resilience. Between those tentpoles, Willis set about widening the map. He went flinty and haunted in Hostage 2005 and 16 Blocks 2006, playing men worn down by time who still choose the harder, braver path. He slipped into stylized chiaroscuro as Detective Hardigan in Sin City 2005, a knight with a failing heart and an unbreakable code. And just when expectations calcified, he lent warmth and timing to family audiences as RJ the Raccoon in Over the Hedge 2006, reminding everyone that his comic cadence could charm as easily as it could cut. The 2010s reframed the legend not as an untouchable titan, but as a seasoned pro who could switch registers at will. Red 2010 and Red 2 2013 let him wink at the action archetype. Retired, extremely dangerous and surprisingly tender, playing team captain to a gleeful ensemble without hogging the spotlight. He joined the Expendables 2010 and Expendables 2 2012 as Mr. Church, tipping his cap to the fraternity of action cinema while keeping his cool just left of center. Then came the existential turn. In Rian Johnson's Looper 2012, Willis stared down a younger version of himself and found not swagger but sorrow. A man whose violence is braided with love, whose mission is equal parts survival and regret. The performance is flint and ache, proof that interior weather can matter more than body count. That same year, he showed a gentler register in Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom 2012, playing a lonely, beautiful cop with a handmade decency. No explosions, only grace. The decade closed with a circle quietly completed. A blink and you'll miss it coda in Split 2016 revealed David Dunn still walking the earth, and Glass 2019 returned him fully. Older, steadier, a guardian who learned that strength is measured in what you carry, not in what you crush. Across these years, Bruce guarded the everyman flame he lit in Die Hard, but he kept tilting it toward new angles. Satire, noir, sci-fi elegy, making the familiar feel newly lived in. What endures from the 2000s to 2010 is not just the box office or the franchise mileage. It's the craft. Willis treated silence like dialogue, age like texture, and genre like a toolkit. Whether anchoring a cyber thriller, guiding a deadpan comedy, or standing hooded and resolute in a rain-soaked frame, he reminded audiences that toughness without tenderness is noise. And that the most indestructible thing about Bruce Willis was never the body. It was the heart. For more than 4 decades, Bruce Willis embodied resilience on screen, the everyman hero who could take a beating and still rise. But in March 2022, the world learned that the invincible figure audiences had relied upon was facing a fight no script could rewrite. In a heartfelt family statement, his wife Emma Heming Willis, ex-wife Demi Moore, and his children revealed that Bruce had been diagnosed with aphasia, a neurological disorder that impairs the ability to communicate. With that announcement came the inevitable truth. Bruce was stepping away from acting, bringing to a close one of Hollywood's most enduring careers. The news felt both shocking and clarifying. For years, industry colleagues had whispered about subtle changes in his performances. Directors shortened his dialogue. Camera setups grew tighter, and earpieces quietly fed him lines he struggled to recall. The sharp wit and improvisational timing that once defined him seemed dulled, not from disinterest, but from an invisible adversary eroding his capacity to engage in the work he loved. By the time the diagnosis became public, many realized they had already been witnessing the early signs. In February 2023, the family offered a more definitive and devastating update. Bruce's condition was more specifically identified as frontotemporal dementia, FTD, a progressive and incurable disease that attacks the brain's frontal and temporal lobes, areas responsible for language, decision and personality. Unlike Alzheimer's, which typically emerges later in life, FTD often strikes people in their prime, stealing identity and communication long before the body begins to fade. For an actor whose very livelihood was voice, presence, and connection, the diagnosis carried a cruel symmetry. Friends and collaborators described the heartbreak of watching him struggle on set, forgetting simple lines, requiring extended breaks to conserve energy, losing the confidence that had once seemed unshakable. Yet, they also spoke of his professionalism, his determination to keep showing up, and his refusal to let frustration eclipse his gratitude. That same stubborn grit, the essence of John M. Land, David Addison, and Malcolm Crowe, remained intact even as his abilities waned. There is tragically no cure for FTD. Its progression is relentless, reshaping memory, language, and personality with every passing year. And so the curtain fell on Bruce's career, not with a planned farewell performance, but with a quiet, necessary withdrawal. After over 40 years in film and television, more than 70 movies and countless iconic roles, Bruce Willis retired, not by choice, but by circumstance. The announcement reverberated far beyond Hollywood. Fans mourned not only the end of a career, but the silencing of a voice that had carried them through countless cinematic battles. Yet, in the same breath, his family's candor transformed private grief into public purpose. By sharing Bruce's journey, they illuminated an often overlooked condition, raising awareness for aphasia and FTD, and offering solidarity to thousands of families facing similar diagnoses in silence. Today, Bruce's legacy stands not only in the films that redefine genres, but in the dignity with which he and his family confront this new chapter. He may no longer stride across screens with bloodied feet or deliver lines that become cultural shorthand, but his story continues to inspire. Just as he once made vulnerability heroic on film, his battle with illness has reminded the world that strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the courage to endure, to adapt, and to be remembered not only for what you do, but for who you are. If Bruce Willis's career made him an icon, his family life revealed the man beneath the legend. In 1987, at the height of his rising fame, Bruce married actress Demi Moore. Their union instantly became one of Hollywood's most celebrated marriages, a pairing of charisma and star power that captivated both the press and the public. Together they had 3 daughters, Rumor 1988, Scout 1991, and Chelan 1994, each of whom grew up in the unique glare of having 2 superstar parents. Despite their eventual divorce in 2000, Bruce and Demi forged something rare in Hollywood, a lasting friendship and a co-parenting partnership built on respect. They refused to let separation fracture the family bond. Holidays, birthdays, and even quarantine years later often saw the blended family together with Bruce, Demi, their children, and later their spouses sharing meals, laughter, and support. For their daughters, this stability became a lesson that love does not end with divorce. It simply takes on new forms. Bruce's second great love came with model and actress Emma Heming, whom he married in 2009. With Emma, Bruce welcomed 2 more daughters, Mabel, 2012, and Evelyn, 2014, extending the joy of fatherhood into his late 50s. Friends often remarked that Emma brought a renewed calm and grounding presence into Bruce's life. Their partnership blended tenderness with resilience, especially as they faced the challenges of his declining health. Emma became not only a wife, but a steadfast advocate and caregiver, leading the family with grace as Bruce's illness progressed. Together, Demi and Emma cultivated a remarkable example of unity, setting aside any lingering history in favor of mutual love for Bruce and their children. What could have been a fractured family instead became a circle of strength where ex-wife, current wife, and children rallied around one man with unwavering loyalty. As news of Bruce's aphasia in 2022 and later frontotemporal dementia in 2023 became public, his family transformed into his greatest fortress. Daughters young and grown alike embraced their father with affection, sharing moments of music, humor, and quiet companionship, even as words became harder to find. Demi's presence, Emma's devotion, and the resilience of his children revealed a truth greater than fame. Bruce Willis's most enduring role has been that of husband, father, and anchor to those he loved. In the end, his family's solidarity is the lens through which many now view his legacy. Behind the action hero who saved the world on screen stood a man whose greatest triumph was keeping his own world, his family united, loving, and strong, even in the face of unimaginable trials. Bruce Willis's legacy cannot be measured by box office numbers alone. It lives in the pulse of popular culture in the way audiences still quote his lines, rewatch his films, and see in him a reflection of themselves. More than a star, he became a symbol of the everyman hero, redefining the action genre with characters who were not invincible machines, but flesh and blood men who bled, stumbled, and joked their way through danger. John Emlan and Die Hard was not just a cop. He was all of us thrust into chaos and forced to rely on grit, wit, and willpower. That blueprint has since become the DNA of modern action cinema. Yet, Willis's contribution went far beyond explosions and shootouts. His career demonstrated remarkable versatility. In comedies like Look Who's Talking, he lent warmth and humor, turning even a baby's inner monologue into cultural currency. In Pulp Fiction and 12 Monkeys, he revealed the depth of his dramatic abilities, embodying complex, wounded men whose struggles lingered long after the credits. With The Sixth Sense, he gave perhaps his most hauntingly subtle performance, carrying the emotional weight of one of cinema's most unforgettable twists. This range confirmed that Bruce Willis was not defined by genre. He transcended it. His influence on younger generations of actors is profound. Performers who grew up watching him saw that toughness did not require perfection, that vulnerability could sit alongside courage, and that timing, whether for a punchline or a gunfight, was as essential as muscle. His characters taught Hollywood that audiences wanted heroes who looked and felt human, not untouchable. The ripple effect of that lesson can be seen in countless films and franchises that followed. Even in retirement, Bruce's work continues to breathe. Streaming platforms have given his films new life, introducing him to audiences too young to have seen his theatrical premieres. Families gather to watch Die Hard every Christmas, still debating whether it is a holiday movie. Science fiction fans rediscover The Fifth Element as a cult classic. New viewers gasp at the reveal in The Sixth Sense even decades later. His body of work has entered the collective cultural canon, timeless stories preserved in digital permanence. Above all, Bruce Willis's legacy rests in his ability to make people feel, thrill, laugh, cry, and cheer. He proved that cinema at its best is not about superheroes or spectacle, but about connection. The fragile, unpolished humanity that shines brightest under pressure. His enduring message is simple yet profound. Heroes are not born in perfection. They are made in imperfection, in resilience, and in heart. As Bruce Willis entered the most difficult chapter of his life, the world that had cheered for his heroes on screen turned its compassion toward the man himself. In March 2022, his family revealed that he had been diagnosed with aphasia, a condition impairing his ability to communicate. The announcement marked the end of a 4-decade career that had transformed cinema and brought joy to millions. Just a year later, in February 2023, his family confirmed that the condition had progressed to frontotemporal dementia, FTD. A devastating diagnosis that explained the changes his colleagues and loved ones had quietly observed in his final years on set. What might have been a private struggle became a moment of global empathy because his family chose transparency. His wife Emma Heming Willis, his ex-wife Demi Moore, and his 5 daughters united to share the reality of his illness. They spoke not only to inform the public, but also to raise awareness about neurological disorders that are often misunderstood or ignored. In their words, they gave voice to countless other families fighting similar battles in silence. The courage of this openness created a second legacy for Bruce, not just as an actor, but as a catalyst for compassion and education. The response from colleagues and fans was immediate and profound. Fellow actors, directors, and crew members who had worked with him came forward with stories of professionalism, kindness, and humor, even in the face of decline. Social media flooded with tributes, clips of Die Hard, The Sixth Sense, Pulp Fiction, paired with messages of gratitude for the ways Bruce's work had shaped people's lives. It was not merely nostalgia. It was a recognition of the human being behind the characters. To his peers, he was more than a star. He was a generous scene partner, a leader who lightened the hardest days, and a friend whose loyalty endured. At home, Bruce's final years became a testament to the power of family. His household, though blended, stood united. Emma cared for him with unwavering devotion, while Demi and their daughters remained close, ensuring that his life was filled with love, laughter, and dignity. Public glimpses into their family life. Videos of Bruce playing with his children, sitting with music, or simply enjoying the sunshine reminded the world that even as illness eroded language, connection remained possible through presence, touch, and love. In these years, Bruce Willis shifted from action hero to something even greater, a symbol of resilience and vulnerability. The same man who once charged barefoot across broken glass on screen now embodied a different kind of bravery, accepting the fragility of the human condition while allowing others to learn through his journey. His openness, and that of his family, reframed illness not as shame, but as part of the human story. The weight of his legacy is immeasurable. Over 40 years, Bruce appeared in more than 100 films and television projects, leaving behind a gallery of characters who redefined action, comedy, and drama. His voice, whether delivering a sardonic one-liner, a desperate plea, or a whisper of compassion, continues to echo across streaming platforms and living rooms worldwide. His films are rewatched not simply as entertainment, but as markers of an era when the everyman hero became immortal. In the end, the world will remember Bruce Willis in many ways. As John M. Lan, the cop who never quit. As Malcolm Crowe, the doctor who listened. As Butch Coolidge, the fighter who refused to throw the match, and as the man whose very presence filled theaters with hope, tension, and joy. But beyond all those roles, he will be remembered as a father, a husband, a colleague, and a man who lived with courage until the last frame. His final years may have been shadowed by illness, but they were also illuminated by unity, by the love of family, by the admiration of peers, and by the gratitude of audiences. This is the enduring truth of Bruce Willis's story, that a life dedicated to art and laughter can transcend even the cruelties of disease. His career may have ended, but his image remains etched into the fabric of cinema, and his legacy of resilience, humanity, and indelible screen presence will never fade.